Yesterday, it looked like Biden was going to announce officially for his re-election today, and he did, in fact, do that with what they're describing as a soft launch, putting out a video here announcing he is, in fact, running for re-election. Let's take a listen to that.
Freedom, personal freedom, is fundamental to who we are as Americans. There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred. That's been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy. It shouldn't be a revolution. To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair shot at making it. But you know, around the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms, cutting Social Security that you paid for your entire life while cutting taxes for the very wealthy, dictating what healthcare decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all while making it more difficult for you to be able to vote. When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are. The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. This is not a time to be complacent. That's why I'm running for re-election. Because I know America. I know we're good and decent people. I know we're still a country that believes in honesty, respect, and treating each other with dignity. That we're a nation where we give hate no safe harbor. We believe that everyone is equal, that everyone should be given a fair shot to succeed in this country. Every generation of Americans has faced a moment when they have to defend democracy. Stand up for our personal freedom. Stand up for the right to vote and our civil rights. And this is our moment. So if you're with me, go to joebiden.com and sign up. Let's finish this job. I know we can. Because this is the United States of America. There's nothing, simply nothing we cannot do if we do it together.
So let's finish the job, soul of America, all that stuff. I have a lot to say about this. So first of all, do I think it's a good and clever strategic ad? Yes, I do. This is all of the points that were effective for Democrats leading into the midterms, January 6th, abortion, extremism, protecting Social Security and Medicare. On the merits, number one, none of these things are issues that you're actually pushing forward. Like, you're literally just saying, I'm going to protect the status quo. Not even because it's not like he protected abortion rights. It's just, I'm going to make sure that the Republicans don't roll them back even further. It's not like they passed voting rights legislation. It's just, you know, I'm going to be here as a bulwark against the right on doing whatever they're going to do with regards to that. It's not, I'm going to expand Social Security and Medicare. It's just, I'm going to make sure that they don't come in here and change it. So it is a status quo message where they are explicitly banking on that the Republican agenda, and Donald Trump very likely being the nominee, is so distasteful that the American people will accept, let's just not have things get any worse. That's the core of what this campaign pitch is.
Yeah, look, I think it's pathetic on several levels. I also think it's smart. So is that possible to say that on the merits? Pathetic, right? Here we have a sitting president of the United States with the greatest bully pulpit known to the history of man, who could throw a massive, well, I guess theoretically should be able to throw a massive rally, a titanic speech, a video, kick it off, have some energy, have some people, thousands of people who are there, people who are excited. He releases a Twitter video at 6 a.m. in the morning, okay, to, I guess, to lead the news. You know, he succeeded. We are certainly covering it here. But also what, Krystal? He's going to immediately do a donor event. He's not doing anything. Now, look, again, I want to say I think it's smart, and I think the reason why is Republican repealing of abortion is so unpopular, all you have to do is say, I won't let that happen. Or at least it's not going to happen under my watch. He hasn't promised us anything, so he almost can't fail. It's actually very difficult to fail. I won't touch your Social Security. I'm not going to do anything about it in the future or anything. But, you know, also, I just won't touch it. There is a reason that he led, and I also think it was brilliant framing, personal freedom. this is what people understand. Americans are freedom-loving people, regardless of what a lot of people think. One of the most salient messages on abortion is really, I don't like being told what to do.
Yep.
And if you really think about so many methods of politics, this comes back to wokeism too. A lot of people are like, yeah, you're not gonna tell me to not say Latino. Like, it's just not gonna happen, especially when I'm Latino. Or you're not gonna tell me which and how I get to speak, or that my grandfather's a racist because he speaks in a way that they used to in the 1960s. Like, it's just not, you're not gonna sit here and dictate the way I live my life. That also transfers well over to the abortion conversation. That's where a lot of Americans are, specifically in a much more secular country than we lived in even 20 years ago,
Yeah.
let alone 1973 or whatever, whenever Roe versus Wade was originally passed. So I thought it was smart framing.
Yes.
And then immediately pivot from that to Social Security. Here's the other smart thing. He didn't mention COVID. Most people are not happy with the way Joe Biden handled COVID. They kind of were at the time, but they think it all went mess. Good. Don't talk about it.
Yeah, but
it's
also,
not a strength for you.
Nobody cares about COVID anymore. I mean, voters are not voting on COVID
I agree.
anymore.
I
Not
agree.
in the Democratic Party, not in the Republican, not in Independents. So it's not like a top of mind issue. So it would be silly for him to talk about that at this point.
I'm with you. More
Yeah.
what I'm saying is he's not even trying the whole here's my accomplishments thing. He's not here like how many vaccines or whatever I did at the American. He's like, these are the two things I'm going to protect. They both poll around 70%. I'm not going to touch them. Ergo, vote for me. Now, like I said, I think that is a very sad place to be when that's your only pitch, but I think it's a smart pitch.
Let me also
Yeah.
say that while I agree with you that there is wisdom in the strategy, given that, you know, number one, Joe Biden and his team are like ideologically opposed to actually doing anything real for the American people. And number two, the Republicans, especially on the issue of abortion, have become so extreme, and the threat of some national abortion ban or something like that hangs so heavily over the American public, and that issue is so potent that I think leaning into that is, you know, is a savvy, intelligent move that has a track record of being effective. But there's also a real risk here, because the bottom line still remains that people care a lot about whether or not they can feed their kids, about whether or not they're earning enough income that maybe one day in a far-off distant land they might be able to buy a home. They care a lot about whether or not they can afford to go to a doctor when they're sick. And if you are taking all of that off the table, you are opening up a huge lane, especially at a time when you have so many Americans saying, I'm struggling economically. I'm concerned about a recession. I think we may already be in a recession. Inflation is eating into my wages and making it so that every single month it is harder and harder to get by. So if you are not speaking to that whatsoever, I do think that that is a risky place to stand. Now, given who Joe Biden is, perhaps this is the best case that he can muster. And that's why I say, you know, perhaps this is like, there's some wisdom here to this approach. But I do think there is a real vulnerability. And the other thing that I have to say is that anytime I hear any of these freaking Democrats, Joe Biden in particular, talk about democracy and how committed they are to preserving our democracy, and yet they are not even going to allow debates in a Democratic primary, when you have a 70% of the country is like, we don't want you to run, dude. We want to evaluate our options, and you are just completely shutting that off. And you aren't sitting for interviews. You aren't doing press conferences. You're barely interacting with the press whatsoever. Spare me your rhetoric about how much you care about democracy, because your actions speak way louder than your words.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Krystal, you found this Washington Post article which actually highlights some of the vulnerabilities you're discussing.
Yeah, so Washington Post interviewed a bunch of like committed Democratic voters. These are not like on the fence, independents, whatever. These are people who voted for Joe Biden. Many of them were activists. They were knocking doors. Some of them are local party officials. Like, these are Team Blue people. And they feel very like, not sure about this with regards to Joe Biden. Put this up on the screen from the Washington Post. It's a long piece here. They say Democrats reluctant about Biden 2024, but they see no other choice. Of course, the media makes sure that they see no other choices. The subhead here is they are lukewarm about picking Biden as their nominee, but many believe he may be the best hope of preventing a second Trump term and fighting extremism. Let me go ahead and put some of the quotes here up so you can see what people were telling the Washington Post. And again, these are like Democratic Party activists, committed Democratic volunteers, put this up on the screen, this first quote. They say, this is from Debbie Watson. She's a 66-year-old paralegal, and she is a Democratic Party volunteer. She said, I noticed in speeches when he gets off script, then he starts to make mistakes. I'm worried about his health, and I don't know how much I like Vice President Kamala Harris if something happens to him. Put this next piece up on the screen, which underscores the vulnerable position that Biden is versus, with regards to his own party versus previous Democratic presidents. Only 38% of the Democratic base wants to renominate Joe Biden. 57% want someone else. That compares to when it was Trump, 73% of Republicans wanted to renominate Trump, 75% of Democrats wanted to renominate Obama back when it was Obama, and 50% of Democrats wanted to renominate Clinton. So even Bill Clinton, amidst, scandal and whatever, even he had a 50% majority rating. Biden significantly lower than that, and that comes out in these quotes. Let's put the next one up on the screen. This is from a Fulton County Democratic Party leader and former mayoral candidate, Dante Carter. He said, when activists tell you we're having a tough time getting people to the polls, it's because people are still pissed off. They're pissed off and asking the question, when are you going to do what you said you were going to do? How do I go back into these neighborhoods where I told folks that this time it was going to be different, and I don't have any receipts to show the difference? Next quote from a local Democratic committee woman. I think my view is I'm not opposed. I'm not excited. Will I vote for him? Absolutely. Will I campaign for him? Of course. Am I thrilled? Am I giddy to see him run again? No. That was Shannon Bowdoin-Rea, a local Democratic committee woman. And this last one from a college student is really something, and this underscores what is a core concern here about his age and his capability of fulfilling the office of the presidency for another 4 years. Avery Burns says, I don't even know if he'll make it to 2024. He's just old, not even to be dark. I think presidents shouldn't be older than 70. Your brain starts to go. So this is the enthusiasm for this reelect that you're seeing amongst the core committed Democratic base, volunteers, local party activists. You can only imagine how everybody else feels.
Well, obviously. And also, look, it's never been more clear. A vote for Joe Biden is almost a 50% vote for, maybe not even 50% if you're looking at an actuarial table. Considering his age, considering the amount of stress that he's under, it could actually be more. Again, not to be morbid, but listen, it's at least a 50% vote for Kamala Harris for a second term. Remember this, January 2029, he would be on the verge of his 87th birthday. I think people really need to understand that. For context, Dianne Feinstein went senile right around, 85, a year before he would be finished up as president. So that is a very real possibility. That's if he lives to see the end. Now, listen, I hope he does. I hope he lives a very long and a healthy life. My own grandfather's 91 years old, and he's doing great. Actually, all my grandparents are over 90, which is crazy, and that's awesome. None of them have dementia. It's certainly possible, but statistically, nobody's a fool about what could happen here at any moment. And they are all retired. They're not in the most stressful job on earth.
Yeah.
That's one of those where you really got to consider what you're signing somebody up for. And the media wants you to think this is ageist and gross to talk about. I'm sorry, we're paying your salary. You're responsible for the world's nuclear arsenal. This is not a joke here. Let's not let grandpa be CEO emeritus.
Yes.
And let him feel like he has a little bit of responsibility.
Joe Biden's vulnerabilities here are so great that really the only thing that is saving him, even in terms of the Democratic nomination, is a collusion between the media and the Biden campaign to convince voters that there are really no other options. In this article, they have that same standard line, no serious primary contenders. Don't even mention the fact that there are, in fact, 2 declared candidates who have national profiles, who are polling higher than most of the Republicans who are in the field, who they very much consider to be serious candidates. They have to make sure that those alternatives are completely smeared, dismissed, invisibilized, et cetera, because the vulnerabilities here are quite real. Now, it is always, look, he's an incumbent president. That's difficult to unseat, and certainly in a primary, even in a general election. But this is also an extraordinary set of circumstances when you have overwhelming majority of Democrats in virtually every poll, like, no, for real, we want to go in a different direction because we don't know that this guy's going to make it, and we really don't want to be stuck with Kamala Harris.
No, I mean,
That is a unique, like historically unique set of circumstances that they're facing.
I believe a Kamala presidency would plunge the world into war. I'm not being hyperbolic. I do not. I think she might be one of the most irresponsible, not even about, leave alone like qualifications on paper. She has shown us very clearly, not a good steward of the nation, not a good politician, unable to connect with people, bad decision making, bad staff turnover. It would be like Andrew Johnson 2.0. Like, I think it would be a complete nightmare for
I
this
think it's
country.
very scary.
And people should really think about that.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.